Good morning. I'm Dawn Cash with District 3. I'll be the chair this morning. It seems that we're past 10 o'clock. It's time to call the meeting to order. I'll do a roll call of the districts.
District 1 here.
Brady Mertens in for District 2, present.
Very good. And I am Dawn Cash for District 3 again. Notice of the meeting was properly posted on December 18th. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion?
Yes.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the meeting. All in favor, aye. To approve the minutes, excuse me. Okay, and next up is number 2, Karen Kent with HR, and we need to pass this item is my understanding. Very good. We will not hear number 2 at this time. And number 3, item number 3 is Dane and Rich.
Good morning. So this was a request brought to us by the head of IT at the jail trust. They would like copies of all the user emails that were prior to the migration of services. These would be copies. We would not be giving over all information, never to have another copy. They're just copies.
What is user email? You mean addresses? What do you mean by user email?
All of the emails for everybody who worked for them. And since emails are historically the purview and domain of Board of County Commissioners, we thought maybe we'd want to get some direction and permission on this before.
And is there a cost associated with doing this? What
Just
kind of
man
search
hours.
are we talking about?
We're talking about man hours of however many hundreds of employees have gone through, going through all the email boxes that are there, probably reconstituting them and giving them copies of that information.
Speaking of cost, are they current on their payments for all the services that were
Not-
provided to them by you all?
Not to my knowledge. I believe the last item that we had, there was a question about whether a charge was valid or not, and I don't know that it got resolved. And I don't know that that was paid.
Can we follow up on that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And do you have an estimate of the time required for you all to put this together?
I would imagine per mailbox, it would be about 1 employee hour. They've had a lot of employees through those doors, so I don't have a count of how many people we're talking about. I would say it's probably well over the 500 range for people who have come and gone. I don't know if they have, if they want those as well, or if they just want current employees who are right there right now.
Do you want to confirm what exactly the request is and let us know?
We absolutely can.
Let's start with that.
Okay.
Please.
Not a problem.
Is anyone?
We can get that done. Yes, ma'am.
And put together a cost guesstimate on doing this for them as well.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So we'll need no action on this item.
And I'll be back up in a minute, but thank you.
Thank you. Number 4, Ms. Nikki.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Are these attached to the agenda item? Okay.
So good morning. I have a couple of exciting updates to share with you guys today. Just a lot of changes within the grant, within the grants department, and I'm really excited about the new year coming up. So I would like to start by letting you guys know that some of the items within this packet that I've given you has been submitted with the agenda item. Um, but the first 2 pages, the upcoming funding labeled, the 2 pages labeled upcoming funding and the December impact statement are not included or not attached. So those are the two that are not attached to the agenda today. But everything else
I make a
is.
motion to receive those documents.
So I would like to start with just the review.
I'm
On
sorry,
December
I need to
meeting.
make a motion to receive these documents. It's green.
No. Yeah, right there. Perfect. Now I can second it.
It's been a motion and seconded. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So I would just like to start with the standard grants watch list that we created so that we're all up to date on the grants that we are currently writing or have written for. And as you can see, pretty much is still the same. Everything is pretty much still the same. Our U.S. Department of Energy grant, that is a voucher that we are wanting to do an energy savings plan on, and we are working towards that. There are still some stuff that we really have to get done, and I have to partner with OG&E and probably get with facilities and get a couple of things ironed out on that one. But that's going to be a really good one for us next year. It's due in the first of the next year. So that's a really, really good one for us. Today, I'm really proud to say that I submitted the grant for the ODMH proposal, was submitted today. That was a really big deal, cross collaboration across many, many departments. And we were able to get that done. We worked for several months. We forged ahead and we submitted a wonderful proposal that will expand a lot of the services that are provided by Oklahoma County currently. So we're really, really proud of that. I'd like for you guys to jump to the last page. And I would like to talk a little bit more about the climate reduction grant, the CPRG grant. As you will see, we've created a grants request form. And this is actually the first grant that we are using to kind of test pilot or see how the grants request form is working. So this is our first grant. And this is a climate pollution reduction grant. This grant is offered by the EPA, and this is federal funding. And this grant, we would partner with ACOG. And so ACOG would be the lead on this grant. And we would actually have a soft competition with the other COGs within Oklahoma. And ACOG would then pick a project that they feel that they want to take to the national level, that would get national recognition. And so that's kind of where we are right now. We feel that there is a project within the county that would work really, really well for this project, for this grant. And it is a 100% grant. It is a no match grant. It is a gift wrapped in a bow grant that would be awesome for us to be able to receive and would really, really help out a lot. And the projects that we've kind of kicked around through the different districts was for the new jail campus, for us to provide additional funding for the jail campus, and not only provide additional funding, but provide a more environmentally friendly jail facility. And so looking at innovation for the county and forging ahead as leaders, I feel that us creating a jail that actually pays us back is a great ROI, a great return on our investment. So I look forward to working on this grant, and I would love for you guys to vote for me to send this one to the BOCC and officially allow me to begin my work on the partnerships and getting the documentation together for us to actually apply for this grant.
Okay, few questions.
Sure.
So ACOG
Yes, sir.
is who we will submit our proposal to. And then the other members of ACOG could also submit proposals. Did I hear that correctly?
That's right.
And then ACOG will decide amongst those proposals which is going to go forward. And my question is, of all the COGs in Oklahoma, is only one project going forward, or will each COG within Oklahoma present a project to move forward?
So what they've mentioned is that they wanted to kind of get a feel of what type of projects were going to be presented by the COGs. And they're going to take as many as they feel will get that national notoriety that they're looking for, or who creates the largest pollution reduction impact within their county COG state is what they're looking
Is
for.
the State Department of Commerce involved in this as well?
No, not that I know of.
All right. And then your suggestion is wonderful for the jail. Have you had preliminary discussions with HOK, who has been retained?
We have. HOK has agreed to do the preliminary pollution reduction measurements and kind of let us know what our implementations will create, what type of pollution reduction we would create.
So the technical aspects of the grant they're going to develop.
That's right.
Okay. All right. I don't have anything else.
You have any questions? I just want to commend you, first of all, on the form and how this process is evolving. It was really helpful to me to review that before this meeting. I had some questions that I was able to answer on my own, just reading some of the EPA guidelines, et cetera. So number one, thank you. I think that's going to work well. Number two, I agree. I think this is a great idea. I'm pleased to hear that HOK is already looking at it. I want you to proceed. I'm all about proceeding. I will probably have questions as we go as to, as you've already mentioned, what the ROI on this will be. If we have extra costs on the front end, how will that be mitigated as we sort of simultaneously are on the dual track, I would see, with applying for this while also moving forward with building the jail. But I love the concept, and the possibility of it is fantastic.
Thank you.
Anything else? Do I have a motion?
To Dawn's statement about she will probably have additional questions. The way this will work is we'll go ahead and give you the green light to begin to work on this with HOK and whoever else would be necessary. And as it's in development, once it's in the final form ready to be submitted, we'll get another opportunity to look at it, and then we'll make a recommendation to BOCC. Is that correct?
If that's what you prefer.
Is that your motion? I like that.
So I would move that we would authorize Nikki to begin working with HOK and others to develop a grant for pollution reduction for the new county jail campus. And once that is in the final form, it be presented to this group for final review and possible recommendation to the board.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Nikki.
Wonderful. Next, I would like to bring to your attention a form, the upcoming funding form. And what you'll see are all of the grants that I've written or we've applied for since September of this year. So as you can see, we've got several grants out there that are coming up pretty quickly. And as you can see, we've written for a total of a little over about $7.5 million thus far. We do know that monies are coming in pretty quickly, and I will continue to kind of add to this so that you guys can see the grants watch list, and you can also see the upcoming funding that we should that we're kind of keeping track of, so to speak. So there's that, and it's got some dates, and it kind of tells you what type of funding, who it's going through, if it's a pass through, if it's for the county, if it's a reimbursement. So just some general information so that you guys can kind of know what we're looking at on the funding that we've applied for thus far. And then lastly, I want to leave you guys with my December impact statement. And what this is each month that I present to you guys, I would like to provide you with some type of impact statement. And what I mean by that is who has been impacted by the funding that we are applying for throughout the county. So each month it will be a little bit different, or it could be the same based on what's been awarded for that month. So this month we were awarded a grant, and I'll read the impact statement. I'll leave you with our impact statement. And so it reads, the Oklahoma County Grants Department has been working to enhance Oklahoma County's communities through meaningful collaboration and partnerships. Over the last several months, I have been able to create a grants request form for departments to have direct access to my services. The form will be sent out in January to all department heads for official organization implementation. The grants department wrote for a $20,000 grant and was awarded $20,000. This grant will directly impact 61 youth. This grant will directly impact the work safety of 7 kitchen staff employees. This grant will improve the sanitation of the building. This grant will save countless hours of energy and labor. With this grant, we were able to collaborate across 2 departments and 3 local vendors. And lastly, the grants department has written for $7.5 million in the last 4 months and is expected to receive $3.4 million in late January or early February. So the grants department has been dispensing hope since 2022. Happy holidays, and I'd love to entertain any questions that you might have for me today.
This is excellent. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple. So, Nikki, when you first started, you were under one form of leadership and direction and had certain processes that had been developed. I think you mentioned at the beginning some new processes. Is there anything of significance that we should be aware of that has changed from the way we were initially doing in terms of requests to you, what you're working on? You know, we just authorized you to begin work on a $55 million grant. Does that now in your hierarchy have to go on to be blessed by somebody else for you to begin, or do you still, as you did in the past, begin working on that? I guess and if I need to have this conversation with somebody else, let me know.
As of right now, I think that since we've created the grants request form, that that's kind of mitigated some of the issues of where the grant goes first for approval. I think that with this form being implemented, it kind of lays the lines pretty clear of the process of how grants are presented from everyone who has an idea or a project that they need funding for.
If you have several different requests from various entities, how is that work prioritized? Are you the one that's prioritizing that work, or does that come from elsewhere?
As of right now, I'm triaging and I'm looking at, does it fit within our perimeters that we've set forth with the form? Is it within 30 days? Is this something that requires tons of collaboration? Are there existing partnerships that we can use and build on? Just being able to read the form, read the project that's being presented is allowing me to kind of triage where I should present something.
Yeah, and if I recall, this group, this board, helped in the development of some of those processes and those forms, et cetera. As those things are coming in, you do this, what is it, the watch list, if you will. But Is it possible for us to get individually emailed? Maybe they don't want them, but as they come in, those requests come in, copies of those so that I can see what's been requested.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And I might add one more thing to the grants request form. Would you guys be okay with me adding P&G's approval and the BOCC's approval on there? You can see that there's my approval, but I kind of feel like that kind of explains that process even further. That it goes through this committee and then it goes through that committee and then it goes through me to make that final call on should this actually be presented out and can we do this?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
I
That's it.
agree. And would you copy all three of us when you're copying one district, please? I'm sorry, Joe, do you have more questions?
Very thorough. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
I really appreciate the impact statement. I would suggest in the future a little bit of a tweak because as you were going through it, I was thinking, okay, remind me which one it is. So you might in the future say $20,000 from,
Yep.
just to help us keep track, or that's helpful to me. But this is fantastic. I appreciate your work.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Nikki,
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
and to you.
Merry Christmas.
Okay, agenda item number 5, IT again.
Just keep turning up.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so what we have in front of us is a management control agreements that was given to me by our representative for OLETS. They're the Oklahoma Law Enforcement Telecommunications System. OLETS is a terminal that is used by the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office, the court services office. They all have, these are very secure, protected terminals. They were the ones that Grant mentioned when he was moving. They're going through their audit period. They're between audit periods, and one of the things that they want to start putting out are these management control agreements between the non-criminal justice agency and the criminal justice agency that they serve. That being said, because it is an agreement, I do not feel that it's something that I should sign because I don't know if it necessarily binds the county to something. My question for you is to get direction on possibly what I need to do with this agreement.
My thought would be to confer with council, but then it be placed before BOCC rather than this
And that was,
entity.
I did confer with the DA's office and they did say that this would probably need to go before BOCC.
That was my knee jerk as well. Anyone else?
And they had no concerns.
Not that they said no. From what was explained to me, this was just an agreement to play by the FBI's rules for the OLEDS terminals. That's
Then I would move that we advance this to BOCC at our earliest convenience.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 6.
Good morning.
Good morning, Danielle. How are you?
Good. How are you all? Today is going to be a little bit longer because we are at the end of the year. So we wanted to just kind of give everybody an update on the little things you might not be seeing every day, like the key performance indicators that we're tracking. So we're going to run through those. I'll be relatively quick, but there are about 80 projects, so it might take a minute or two. Feel free to flag us if you have questions about any of the projects. This is a good time to kind of walk through fund status and things like that as well. Our general agenda right now, we're going to walk through the department items, then we'll walk through our subrecipients, remind you of our subrecipient monitoring process, and then just a quick look around of what's gone on this year and what's moving forward into the year to come. So we'll start with internal projects. Most of these that you're going to see in the first couple of slides you've already seen because these are our closed projects. So when we did the formal closeout, you saw each of these, but we're going to just remind you of their KPIs as well. As a quick reminder, there are 39 total county projects, and underneath we have them per department, how many are in each department. You have 67 key performance indicator, which means there's more than one performance indicator for some of your county projects. These were determined by most of your departments or in association with our assistants in determining those. There are 2 EC categories, 2.16 and then 1.11, the community violence intervention, that have required reporting metrics from the Treasury Department. And then again, as I referenced, we have 12 closed projects on the county side that you have previously seen their KPIs on. A quick highlight, these are some exciting projects that have really, really wide county impact that we just wanted to call out at the beginning before getting into the weeds of all of the other ones. So to begin with, you have your Sheriff's Community Violence Intervention Project. This was about an $8 million project that was really intended to help reduce crime in the community and really work on community policing. Their KPI measure is going to be about public perception and the way that they're interacting with non-enforcement officials. This is going to be captured through surveys in the Sheriff's Department. They're creating like business cards that will have a QR code. So when they've had a community policing conversation with someone at an event or just out in the community, they'll hand them that card. They can take the survey and say, I feel like this conversation went on a scale of 1 to 10, positive or negative. And so that will give us an idea of how that is turning out. A next really important project to highlight is the Juvenile Bureau's Telemental Health Program. So this is for the prevention and treatment and recovery at the facility. So this will be tracked through the total number of youth that are seen and then the total number of sessions that are provided, because several of the youths will have multiple sessions. So just collecting the number of youths wouldn't give us that full picture. And so that's why you'll see that some of these have more than one KPI metric because it tells a bigger story. And then also with our social services homeless navigator, this is a very exciting one that has recently been implemented. And this is to help those that are unhoused in the community obtain their vital records and different forms of service. And we will track that through the number of clients served and then tracking that through male, female, Caucasian, African-American, other races, and things like that as well. So those are just 3 strong highlights of really, really wonderful impacts that are being made throughout the county. And then we get into our closed projects. So again, these are ones that you all have already seen. And a lot of these were individual one-time purchases. That's why they were closed early or they were done as a reimbursement. So many of these we won't have to report on again. For instance, COVID-19 testing, the number of tests were ordered, they've been used, that's done. We won't report on that again. But with county IT, some of their projects will have continual KPIs to track, such as the number of vulnerability reports produced or the hardware that's implemented. So you'll see for disaster recovery, we tracked the disaster hardware recovery implemented for COVID-19. It was the number of tests, medical claims, number of reimbursements, and that will be the same for all of the medical claims items. It's the total number of reimbursements, so individuals. And then for Pantera, it's the vulnerability reports, and that is one we will continue to report on until the conclusion of ARPA. Again, couple of IT projects, tracking your administrative credentials and then logging incidents to date through your QRadar. So that's for your cybersecurity software and making sure that the county is protected. And then your COVID medical claims, again, just number of claims reimbursed. And then COVID-related death cremations. These are the ones that the county took on for indigent services that were unable to identify family or afford them themselves. And the county had 7 of those. Pretty straightforward. Again, 2 medical claims, and then we had laptops through the benefits department, and that was an easy KPI, tracking the number of laptops purchased. And then with premium pay, this was also a really wonderful county implementation, and the number of workers that were served. So you were able to provide premium pay to 669 of your county employees. That walks us through all of the closed projects and items that you have already seen and moves us into our Juvenile Bureau. We have these broken up by departments, not by priority or anything like that, and then in a numeric system. So we have our elevator capital plan, so that they're replacing portions of their elevator. And these are our outcomes for that will be the number of people that are using the elevators per month, the number of failures, and then the reduction in the number of elevator incidents. So that we've got a couple of KPIs there. They are also purchasing a handful of vehicles. They are trying to procure 3 total. They have 2 at this time. They are going to be using these to transport their use to and from medical appointments or mental health appointments. So we will track those number of appointments that they are transported to per month. For COVID testing, they have not purchased their test yet, but when they do, we will take that total number of tests that are procured. They still have a contract in place with Turnkey and haven't needed these funds yet for that. For the construction of the courtroom lobby, this is going to allow them space to expand and have individuals socially distanced, and we will track the number of individuals on average that are coming in for court per month, and can include in that some will have attorneys with them, some will have family with them, and make an estimate to include those as well. Their violence intervention program is going to be the number of residents involved in this program. So this is another really strong community violence intervention program that's being implemented within the county. This one through the juvenile department rather than through the sheriff's department. So this is going to be a trauma, or it's already implemented, a trauma-focused cognitive behavioral intervention. And there's really a strong hope here in a reduction in the violence and the reduction of recidivism at the detention or at the juvenile bureau. So that's very exciting. We touched on the telemental health already. This will be the number of youth seen and sessions provided. This is an old number because we're collecting these for the annual report, but in June we had 18 youth that had been seen and a total of 29 sessions that had occurred. So that will have increased, and we will have those new numbers when we do the annual report again. And we are tracking some of that quarterly right now through a Microsoft form as well. Next, they have the roof replacement, and again, this will be a number of total people impacted, the number of people that are coming in and out of the facility, including residents and visitors. That takes us into the Sheriff's Department. The first two are their salary and benefits reimbursements. This is something we've talked quite a bit about and how they have responded to COVID. So we have that supporting documentation that tells us how their life changed and how their implementations of their programs have changed in response to COVID-19. And then through that, we'll be tracking the number of school resource officers that are established and going through training programs. There's a portion of the funding that is used for that. And then the total number of employee salaries being covered. So as you'll see, 190 in the first project and 196 in the second. Moving into HVAC, we will do a pre and post air quality test. So this is just kind of telling you where you're at before and after. HVAC was one of those items that was very specifically called out in final rule as a mitigation to COVID. So we've got a couple of HVAC projects, and that will be the same metric we look at for all of those, is that pre and post air quality test. And then again, their comprehensive community violence intervention program, which will be done through surveys. Lastly, we have their updated camera system with the access controls for contact tracing. So we do have the total net new number of cameras, which is 102. It's quite a few. And then the future output measure will be the number of incidents were pulled for contact tracing. That shows 0 right now because the implementation is just now finishing up. So we haven't pulled any of those searches yet, but we will have that number when we do the reporting. Next, we have facilities, and these are both elevators. Our elevator KPIs are going to be the same across the board as well. We're tracking the number of people that are using the elevator, the number of failures, and then the reduction in the number of elevator incidents. Engineering, they have the annex new front entrance, and this is going to be tracking the number of individuals that are coming in and out of the facility as well. So not only do we have staff, but the total number of visitors. And we're looking at right now, the numbers we have is about 1,500 staff per day and 1,800 visitors per day. So this is that expansion of that entryway to kind of help with social distancing and keeping people off of being on each other's toes. Then we have the drainage culvert inventory, which I think is about 30% done at this point, which is very exciting. And we have several different things that we are tracking here. So their field data collection, the desktop reviews, hydraulic analyses, shape files created, and then the GIS completion. So we are working closely with Stacy to get these numbers, and they're doing a really great job with the owner's rep to kind of get this inventory pulled together. So that's very exciting as well. Then that takes us into some of the BOCC projects. These are detention center adjacent, if you will recall. Again, we have the heat and air system. So this is related to your HVAC, which is going to be the pre and post air quality testing. You have the roof replacement, which is similar tracking as what was at JJC, the number of people, and then the number of residents. With the loading dock updates, we are going to be tracking the reduction in the number of maintenance requests. This was something that was approved because it was necessary to make those improvements at the loading dock in order to obtain PPE and COVID testing and other supplies. So security reasons, having that consistently down for maintenance was creating problems in safely bringing PPE inside the building. So reducing the number of maintenance is a great metric in tracking that as well. Lastly, on BOCC, we have another roof. Same thing. We're going to track the number of residents and individuals out of the facility. Makes those easy. We'll be able to track those at the same time. And then for the medical and behavioral health facility, when it is implemented, so we don't have these numbers yet, of course, because we have not seen any of the inmates at this time, but we will check medication compliance, psychiatric hospitalizations, suicide watch, and then post-incarceration follow-up rates as well. So those will be really, really wonderful numbers to have in the future. In social services, we've talked about our homeless navigator and how exciting it is and the services that they're going to provide. With the homeless services trailer, we're going to be tracking very similar KPIs, how many people are being served, and what is their ethnicity or gender. For the court clerk social distancing project, this is on the 5th floor. And so this will be tracking the number of individuals benefiting from that project, so the number of staff, and then the percentage of an increased space per employee, showing that there was an expansion in space for social distancing and no reduction. For emergency management, we have the radio project, and this is the number of handheld radios that were collected. This project is not fully completed, but it has expended quite a substantial amount of their funds and likely to be completed in the next year or so. And then lastly, we do have benefits. And again, this will just be the number of claims reimbursed. And as we have had previous conversations in relations to benefits, this is a project that you can potentially have a rollback of funds on. It's something that was originally again, it's very hard to know or say how COVID is going to play out, but it was originally provided $6.5 million, and that was based on some projections. We are running numbers, and we have John here to present today as well to answer any questions on a potential reduction. A vote does not have to occur today, but it allows us the opportunity to kind of tell you what we are looking at. So with the total remaining funds, you have $5,425,276.95. That is the total amount from the 6.5. COVID has been trending down in medical claims. You did have a very high November at 143,000, but the other previous months have been closer to maybe 30, 20, and John has done a 16th month overview. And with his overview, he's feeling like he could safely say 85 per month looking forward, which would be a reduction of $2,280,276.95. We also have two other scenarios that would allow you to reduce by 2.5 million or by 3 million. If you reduced by 2.5 million, it would leave $79,000 per month for the next 37 months. And if you reduced by 3 million, it would give you 65,000 for the next 37 months. So you have an option to think about 65, 79, 85. And if you have any questions for John, he is prepped and ready to speak to it as well. Again, you don't have to take a vote today, but something we're looking about considering rolling back in January. Or if you wanted to do it now, you could.
Are you wanting to continue? Do you want us to discuss this item
No,
now? Is it
yeah, let's
easier
go
for
ahead
you
and
to-
if you have any questions, comments, concerns, this is a great time.
Absolutely. Does anyone have questions? Are you coming to us with a recommendation, or you're just allowing for a discussion of possible numbers?
We're allowing a discussion of possible numbers. John is comfortable with leaving it at 85,000, which would be that 2.2 remaining amount. We had said that probably reducing by 3 million was something that we were comfortable as a team, but do want to be cognizant of the department's head's position on this as well. So I think that then becomes a policy decision on how do you want to proceed forward with taking those numbers into consideration.
John, do you want to share with us your thoughts?
Good morning.
Morning.
I would really hope that we might wait till next month to address this issue. You know, November is an extremely high month, $143,000 in claims. So just kind of see how that trend continues and maybe address the next couple months to see where those claims come in at.
Yeah, I think, John, there's some pretty significant COVID activity. Maybe a new variant. Is Am I remembering reading that correctly here?
I've seen that as well.
And I think waiting a little bit, given the November number above what had been the average, waiting a little bit longer to consider reduction is appropriate. Although I do think at some point in time after the first of the year, once we have a little more data, we're going to need to take a good hard look at moving some of the money out.
Yeah, it sounds good.
That's my thoughts.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think we need to keep in mind, though, that we do, if we are going to roll back, at some point, we're going to have a cutoff date on when we decide what to roll back so that we have opportunity to not lose that money. But certainly another month makes sense to me, just so you can gather additional information
Yeah,
for us.
just to see what's been next month looks like first.
That
So,
sounds wise.
thank you.
Thank you, John.
When we get the number for next month as well, we can rerun to have the exact numbers as well too. So we'll present those to you guys in January. It's an early one too, so we'll see you January 9th. From here, we are going to jump into subrecipients. So before doing so, are there any county project questions?
On the HVAC, when you were talking about measurement of air quality, so that's come up in a couple of our different items. Have you watched that play out already and how that's discerned, the before and after? I'm just curious.
No, because the implementation is not fully completed.
And you've not seen it done elsewhere?
Not on a project that I am working on. I have not. But a pre and post test is not an abnormal measurement.
Right. Okay.
Just a kind of a generalized question on our capital projects, where we have interplay between you all, our owners rep, Stacy and Keith, and every other individual that might be involved in some aspect of the projects. Do you feel that we're in a good space, or are we information wise for everyone to be on the same page? Is there anything that needs to be done? Any potential hurdles out there?
Sure. I think one of the hurdles is just having strong numbers is something we do work with Keith and Stacy and the owners rep as well. We meet with Marcus every Wednesday, and we do have some generalizations, and they have let us know that they're having a hard time having hard numbers until they're closer to their closure dates, which we can understand, but maybe having a little bit stronger estimates on those. To Dawn's point on the COVID medical claims, there will reach a point where we're not going to have time to reallocate funds. So making sure if a project was at 1.6 million and it's only going to come in at $1 million, that we have time to allocate $600,000 to the community or to other projects. We do have good communication, but giving them some time to try and get those numbers a little bit more concise.
To that, like you mentioned, similar to what we were just discussing with John, is there a date? Is that, mid-year next year? Is it first quarter next year that we need to have some serious conversations about some of these projects?
We have asked for a pins down by April.
Okay. All right. And will you just kind of remind us every month how that conversation's going?
Absolutely.
I'm sure I'll forget.
Okay. No, absolutely. Happy to do so.
All right. Thank you.
And my recollection was we had discussed having and this is what you're doing, but really having a detailed discussion of rollbacks and reallocation, maybe as early as December, but certainly we'll need to move forward on that in January.
Yes, and so that's why we have that drop dead date in April, because we will need that time to roll it. Just because of the way county processes work, we've got to roll it back into 14-15. We have to have you guys select new projects. We've got to go through subrecipient contracting if they're going to be a subrecipient. So it does take more than a month to get those pieces moving. So we want to, at the early stages, get that number. That way we can start the new processes again.
Right, that's helpful. And then also, and this is just an easy one to grab. I don't know what others might not be as obvious, but since air quality is something we've been talking in several spaces today, if you all are seeing throughout the country, certainly that's an easy one to pick because they are emphasizing the HVAC. If you are seeing the results are not satisfactory, we're open to any suggestion that you have. I think a value add that you have is that you have a broader lens to see all of these projects come to fruition than we do. So we will be looking and anticipating getting your feedback as we move forward if we need to tweak as appropriate.
Absolutely. On all of these KPIs, except for on 2.16 and on 111 that have those mandatory KPIs, we can add additional ones. So we can add a separate tracking that if you are not feeling like the pre and post quality test is sufficient, we can certainly add a second one to be tracking as well. Not a problem.
And I'm not wanting to second guess the data points. What I'm hoping for, though, is to count on your global knowledge to direct us as needed on items that we may not be able to see, that you may see as a possible
Absolutely.
issue.
We have made suggestions on some of the KPIs based on what we have seen in other places. And so that's not abnormal either.
Great. Thank
And,
you.
and those suggestions you're making directly to the end recipient?
Yes,
whether
to
it's
your department heads.
And are they receptive?
Generally,
And if not?
then they
you
need
can
to
bring
come
them-
up with their own.
Well,
Or let us know.
I hate to micromanage, but I think if there's something, ultimately, a lot of this comes back to our ability to report the accurate use
Mhm.
of the money in regard to the law, right? And so if there are things that you're seeing, to Don's point, globally, that we should be considering, and those are being suggested but not enacted,
Mhm.
then I think perhaps this group needs to have a conversation.
Absolutely. I will say that everybody has been very receptive. Some of the things that we had received as original KPIs, and it's very traditional to see this with the construction projects, were project completion rates, like, oh, we're at 50% now, or we're at 100%. And we had provided new suggestions on those KPIs because it's not tracking your output, right? How did you impact the community? How many people came into the facility? That's just telling us from start A to start C, B, where you are at. And so we have made some of those suggestions to say, hey, this is really a better output measure versus just tracking what you're doing.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to pass y'all to Avery for subrecipients. But if you have questions, we are right here to support her as well.
Thanks, Danielle. Good morning, Avery. Welcome.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, everyone. So I am going to get into subrecipient impact, and it will run the same way Danny did the internal projects, but mostly focusing on the key performance indicators and how the subrecipients are really moving the needle in Oklahoma County. So we'll start with external subrecipient projects, which are all the projects except for PBA and Detention Center. So just a high-level summary of those key performance indicators that we're tracking. We have a total of 22 projects, and with that, we're looking at 56 key performance indicators that are tailored toward the project and just really tracking their success. We have 3 mandatory performance indicators, 2 that are additional requirements by Treasury. And then for project management activities that go into the subrecipients, we have the award, which is where the recipients are selected, contracting is conducted, and then we have funds issued for low risk, and for medium risk, they can start sending their invoices for reimbursement. We've been hosting compliance webinars where we've discussed topics including procurement threshold reminders, best practices Q&A. On our last webinar, we had Allied Arts and Urban League come discuss their compliance best practices for federal funds, which was super beneficial. And then we've discussed record retention and quarterly reporting updates. For monitoring, there's a whole host of activities, but just to highlight a few, we check the allowed versus unallowed activities, program income and the requirements that surround that, and period of availability of funds and real property, so if they've purchased any equipment. And then closeout activities include site visits, desk review, a sampling of invoices, and expenditure finalization, return of any funds that were not used. So now we'll get into the details of each subrecipient project. So starting with the Home Finance Authority and their affordable housing project, we're tracking the number of affordable housing units that are created. And then with the Care Center, they have a victim services project, which is aimed toward creating a child-focused environment for children to tell their abuse stories. As we can see, we have multiple KPIs that we're tracking there. So we have the number of mental health advocacy and consulting referral services provided, and they're targeting 1,166 services over the next 11 quarters. And then we have number of counseling sessions provided, and they're expecting 1,200 sessions over the next 10 quarters. The number of medical and wellness exams provided will be tracked, and they're expecting 80 exams over 10 quarters. And the number of medical expertise provided for child abuse investigations, which are 75 hours over 10 quarters. Next, we have the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health Substance Abuse Services, and that's building a replacement facility for Griffin Memorial Hospital, which will add an additional 100 beds. And for that, we're tracking the percentage increase of people served. The American Indian Cultural Center Foundation is using their ARPA funds for marketing initiatives, and we can see that reflected in their KPIs, where they're expecting a 15% increase in monthly visits to the museum, 10% increased membership and renewal, and then lastly, the increased monthly impressions, which they're hoping to increase to 1.5 million. So next we have the Oklahoma State Fair, who is doing infrastructure repairs and improvements to lighting. So they're expecting to for the cost to go down with the new, more energy efficient lighting, and we can see that reflected in their KPIs with the comparison of facility electrical maintenance and supply costs and kilowatt usage to prior periods, expecting that to go down. And then the total number of individuals benefited per month from the update, and the percentage of allocated funds expended per quarter. Hope Community Services has purchased a handicapped accessible van to provide transportation to clients needing those services, and they have multiple KPIs as well, with one of them being the number of clients receiving transportation who otherwise wouldn't receive those services. For City Care, they have the supportive services for individuals transitioning out of homelessness, and this is really focusing on wraparound services, so we can see that they're tracking the number of individuals served with permanent housing and case management, as well as the number of people who remain at the permanent housing. And lastly, for them, we have the percentage of people who maintained or increased their income. For the town of Luther, they're using their ARPA funds to purchase a fire engine tanker, and that is going to allow more water to be taken to a fire emergency within the 66% of the district that does not have fire hydrants. So for that, we're tracking the number of uses of the truck per month and the types of emergencies. The North Oklahoma County Mental Health Center is developing the Edmond Urgent Recovery Care and Outpatient Clinic. We can see that their KPIs are focused around the services they'll be providing, with the number of individuals receiving face-to-face crisis services and the number and percent of people receiving mental health or related outpatient services. They're also tracking the percentage of those engaged through North Care Edmond reporting improved medical and physical function. For Restore OKC Inc., they are constructing the market at Restore Farms, which will have healthy food options. For them, we're tracking the number of jobs created per quarter, so expecting economic impact there, and then the number of new offerings and percentage increase in production each quarter. We have New Day Recoveries Project, where they are helping consumers find treatment and resources to become independent, and they're expecting 15 to 20 people to benefit from the program and 12 sessions per quarter. Urban League of Greater Oklahoma City has a minority business assistance program, which is providing training and mentoring to small minority-owned businesses, and they're tracking the number of minority businesses that technical assistance and business case management is provided, as well as the number of small businesses that they're providing startup assistance to. For Allied Arts, we have COVID relief for Oklahoma County cultural nonprofits, and they're providing funding through grants to the arts organizations that were hit very hard by the pandemic. And so they're tracking the number of applications that they'll be receiving, as well as the grants they're awarding. And then finally, the percentage of grants closed by 2025. The Regional Food Bank is using funding as credits to agencies for the acquisition of the purchase of food. And the number of individuals provided food assistance, they're using the baseline of 10.75. Remerge of Oklahoma County is using funds to expand services to an additional 25 women yearly. And they have a program that addresses mothers in the criminal justice system. So a lot of their KPIs are tailored around that program and the outcomes they're expecting. And we can see that they're expecting a completion rate of 70%. That's what they're hoping the outcome to be and tracking. The Oklahoma Railway Museum is using ARPA funding for construction, and we can see that a lot of their KPIs are focused around that as they're restoring their building with the completion of exterior trim and painting, completion of electrical installation, HVAC installation, and plumbing installation. The city of Bethany is using ARPA funds to do a meter replacement project, and they're focusing on the older part of town with those funds. and the amount of houses that are expected to benefit from that are 100. Northeast Oklahoma City Renaissance is doing a real estate and small business training program to the residents of Northeast Oklahoma City. And the KPIs we're tracking there are the attainable housing units created, the community members going through the program, and how many participants go on to do their own project as a result of going through that. And then Community Health Center, Inc. is renovating a former school building to create a health facility. And we can see that their KPIs are the current ratio of 1.48, debt to equity ratio, and Highland Park percentage of completion. The Accenture team is planning a workshop in April where we're going to get all of the subrecipients together and do a story mapping. And through that, we'll be able to gain a few more qualitative measures for the projects as well, and kind of get an inside look into the stories and the lives that they're impacting, as well as how they're interrelated. The Dale Rogers Training Center is creating a accelerator hub for individuals with disabilities, and they are tracking the number of people with disabilities that are provided information about opportunities for self-employment. That's really the focus of their program, is self-employment and entrepreneurship. And as well, they're tracking the seminar attendees and the number of new businesses that are started. The Health Alliance for the Uninsured aims to assist over 10,000 clients in 3 years. And so they're going to be distributing nearly 40,000 free prescriptions, and they're really tracking those prescriptions with the total prescription dollar amount provided and individuals with medication assistance. Lastly, we have the Edmond Mobile Meals, and we're awaiting their reporting, which is where they come up with their key performance indicators. So we don't have those just yet, but they'll be providing meals to seniors and disabled individuals in the community. So hopefully this, I know it's a lot of information, but has painted a good picture of all of the work that the subrecipients are doing out in the community and making Oklahoma County a better place tomorrow. Does anyone have any questions?
Questions?
Not on
No.
these.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Avery. This is a very exciting report.
We're like halfway. I'm going to walk you through the PBA and the detention center, but these should be relatively quick since you are more familiar with these projects as well. So hopping right into PBA, again, just kind of a highlight of their 3 main projects that are not elevator related. So you have the Emergency Operations Center, and we will be tracking the number of EOC drills per year. You'll see there we have our asterisks saying pending department confirmation. This is not that they have given us a hard time with it. We just came up with the metric and need them to say yes, they're okay with that, but wanted to call it out in case they see it, that this is what we have provided and that we will get their confirmation on. If it changes, we will update this and we will update you guys as well. The number of updated camera systems. So again, this is the same that the sheriff's office did for the county buildings, but this is for the ICB buildings, Metro, things like that. So this is the total number of new cameras and then the number of contact traces. The DA transition to ICB will be very similar to your 5th floor metrics. You're going to be tracking the number of individuals that are benefiting per month and then the percentage of increased office space per employee. Other than that, what you have going on at PBA are your elevators. So you have Metro 1 and Metro 2, and this is going to be tracking the number of people using the elevators per year, the number of failures per year, and then the reduction in the number of elevator incidents. And so you can see here, since we have already done some reporting on these, when we did our report per year, we had 150,600 people that used the ICB elevator, and you had 275,096 that used Metro 1. You also have Metro 2, and that's all 515,052 people. And so those are the metrics we will track for all of your elevators. Again, those 3 being the same. And then we touched on cameras and the DA transition to ICB. That walks us through PBA and gets us into the detention center. All but one of the detention center projects are already closed, so this is just a reminder about their projects. They had 12 total projects, 11 fully expended. That leaves your 1. The 3 that we have called out that are making a large impact at the detention center are your Avigilon system upgrade. Again, this is your contact tracing camera, so this is the number of new cameras and the contact trace searches that occur. The live scan fingerprint is a reduction in processing time. So this allows them to use that system rather than be as hands-on, which is a reduction in the time that it takes people to get booked into the facility. And that is very similar to the full body scanner. This allows the detention center in some cases to not have to do a pat down or physical search, which is a safety measure. And then it is also a reduction in time. And then we will be tracking the number of detainees that use this scanner over a set period of time. Again, a lot of these projects were one-time purchases at the detention center, so they've already been reported on and won't be reported on again. Your camera projects will continue to be reported on because we'll track the continuation of the number of searches. But for things like your COVID testing, that was 6,425 tests purchased. They've been used. That is completed. For PPE, the detention center purchased 35,350 masks and then 3,244,720 gloves. We won't have to report on that one again. Your quarantine pod had 500 new mattresses, sheets, blankets, and sandals and towels, and then 1,500 total outfits. Again, those were one-time purchases, and that KPI won't have to continue. The live scan fingerprint, we have showing a reduction of 4 to 5 minutes of time processing as compared to the 8 to 10 minutes before. Your full body scanner, there was a total of 31,389 detainees that used it from January to June. And again, we'll update that number when we do our annual reporting. In deep cleaning, there were a total of 28 pods cleaned and 5 elevators. COVID testing, there were 3,600 tests. And then we had another purchase of gloves and another purchase of masks. There were 130,000 gloves and 6,000 masks. And then again, another 1,000 COVID tests. And those had one-time reporting. Your one project that is still open and ongoing is your network infrastructure upgrade project. So because they are a high-risk recipient, this is the project that requires them to submit their invoices for reimbursement. As they continue to do that, we are excited because they're going to be able to enhance their systems for their remote meeting capabilities, their video conferencing. They have been giving an update at their CJAC meetings about how the implementation is going, and they have had a couple of struggles, but overall going well, and they're excited to see all of these pieces come together. We are pending confirmation on their KPIs, but looking at tracking the number of total meetings that are held through the video conferencing, and then the latency and throughput during and before and after the upgrade of this system. But it is not fully implemented yet. They've only submitted one invoice. I think you have questions, Joe.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it's appropriate here or maybe just general policy and reporting update, but if I recall, if an entity received a certain amount of funding per year from the federal government, they needed to do a single audit. So
Correct.
we do one.
Yes.
Subrecipients are also required to do that, correct?
Yes, if they have received $750,000 or more in federal funds, not just ARPA funds, in total of all federal funds, they are required to do a single audit, which does include your detention center.
And then as part of our reporting, those subrecipients that might be in that category are required to provide those audits to us as well, correct?
That is correct.
And are we, if that is out there, are we receiving those audits timely?
We are in the process. We do have a form that goes to all of our subrecipients reminding them about the requirement if they have $750,000 of funds. Again, that includes your detention center. They have to let us know yes or no that they have received it. We know that they did because we gave them $750,000 or more in funds. And then they are required to provide that information to us so that if there is any sort of audit finding, we can do a corrective action plan for them and move forward in a positive manner. Our understanding is that they have now started this process, but we do not have the results of their single audit at this time.
They is the detention center.
Yes.
But everybody else that might be home finance got 2 million. I don't know who else receives federal funds.
Yes, the home finance already did their single audit.
Okay. And is not having that audit impairing our ability to report accurately yet?
Not yet, no. But it is impairing our ability to make a recommendation that they should receive any additional funds. Until we see that, because they are a high-risk recipient, we would feel more comfortable having that single audit to make a determination on if they are capable of undertaking any additional projects.
I think that's wise. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the timing there? Have you heard from them on timing?
They let us know that they are working on it. I do not have a drop-dead timeline from them.
What do you think is an appropriate timeline?
I think it's going to take roughly 3 months to do the audit.
And we're at the very beginning.
Yes, that's our understanding. We asked for a timeline. Usually these take around 3 months to do fully. And we have either 5 or 6 of your subrecipients that have submitted their audit to us. And so that's one of the questions we ask. We validate every year. So that's part of your responsibility to make sure that they are submitting their audit to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse every year. And so we asked to make sure that they submitted to us, and then they also submitted it to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse.
Is there a federal deadline?
It needs to be done every year. So given that they got money in their last fiscal year, it should have been done last fiscal year.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're
So
welcome.
We're talking not single audit year recently completed. We're talking the previous FY that's not been done.
Yeah, so they're working now on last year's, but given, I think their first allotment came the previous fiscal year, you just have to submit it. It's like 60 days after your fiscal year ends. I have to go back and look at the exact timeline.
Okay.
Good to know. Thank you.
That does walk us through all of our KPIs. This is just kind of an overall update on your investment in Oklahoma County. As you all just got to hear, it's very exciting on all of the projects that are going on. We're going to hopefully see a decrease in psychiatric hospitalizations and suicide watches at the detention center once the mental health facility is implemented. You are going to see an increased use of telehealth at the Juvenile Bureau and mental health counseling for those individuals. We're going to have an increase in tourism dollars brought to Oklahoma County when you have projects like the State Fair that are making changes. FAM is making changes. These are great tourism industries. And then the integration of your COVID detection cameras, which is a really great health benefit for the county as well. That is all of our KPIs. And then this is just a quick overview and reminder of what we are doing in addition to those with each of your subrecipients. You do have 22 total projects right now, and 19 of those EFT forms have been sent, which means they are set up as vendors with the county. 17 of the contracts have been signed by both parties, but 19 of them have been passed by BOCC, so we're waiting on some signatures from our subrecipients. We are awaiting information from one organization, that's just Edmond Mobile Meals, and that's because they were just recently included on this. And so we are working to obtain all of their information, and that was including their KPI as well. We like to give them the opportunity to come up with it first, and if they need us to provide assistance, we will. And then 14 of your recipients have already received funds. This is just kind of an overview of the step-by-step processing when it comes to subrecipients. They provide us an updated Excel because they submitted in the portal, but sometimes there's a little bit of change in their project because there's been several months since the portal was enacted, or maybe when they were submitted and then selected. So they submit their information in the Excel. We make the subrecipient versus beneficiary determination. That goes into their risk assessment. We're able to draft their contract and then share it with the DA for review. Once we have their approval, we send the EFT forms to AP so they can become a vendor with the county. The contract then goes on BOCC. We get BOCC signatures, we get the subrecipient signatures, and then we begin all of the fun reporting and compliance pieces. So we have quarterly reporting that is collected per quarter, as it says. We do all of our webinars, invoices get sent, we do the site visits, and then we do the saved in compliance files and close out. So this is just big picture of start to finish, what goes on for each of your 22 subrecipients. And then I am going to give it to Jamie to wrap us up.
So I know that was a lot, but we are not going to do that every time. We're going to do that maybe once a year. So you fully understand all of the 80 projects that you have done and your investment into the county and what's the impact into the county. And to also to Deputy Cash's point, for our subrecipients as well, we will monitor that they hit their KPIs. So if they don't hit their KPIs and they're not making their return on their investment that you are expecting, we will bring that to the county to make sure it's what you guys expected. As we highlighted with a few of you, for example, another local government recently decided you didn't hit what you were told us you would hit, and we are going to ask for your funds back from ARPA. So that could be a decision this board decides to make. Hopefully all of our subrecipients do exactly what they say they're going to do, and we don't have to do that, but we will make sure you guys are aware. So just major activities for the year. Where do we spend our time? What do we do throughout the year? We do a lot of face-to-face support with your departments and your agencies, and a lot of it has been really focused on subrecipients for the last 6 months. It takes a lot of time to prep for lots of different meetings, and a lot of that being this P&G presentation that we do to you all. We had a significant amount of P&G meetings this year because of the community projects when we were meeting weekly. And then also the community proposal review. I'll show that here in a minute. We reviewed 147 community proposals to make recommendations throughout the year. And then this project management. So anytime we have to put a portal up, we had to score any research. So we get a lot of really great ideas about how to use additional unobligated funds to do that research. Is it allowed? How could we, what component of this project could be allowed? A lot of that subrecipient contracting that Danny already talked about. The infrastructure support, so following all of your great infrastructure projects to make sure that those are going to meet their deadline, especially given the 2026 deadline, and you have a significant amount of capital projects. We watch about 6 budget board meetings just because your ARPA projects are about 6 different committees between infrastructure, BOCC, CJAC, just to make home finance, just to make sure that we're tracking all the different progress that is being made, as well as all the different votes that are being made on that. And then the subrecipient compliance, what Avery talked about, doing those webinars with them, making sure that they feel very supported, and doing a lot of one-on-one time. So far, we've had 3, but we're going to do them every quarter before reporting, as well as an in-person one in April. So Treasury really asked for, as part of your annual report that will be due in July, you are supposed to explain how did you, what's both the qualitative data, what are the stories that came out of ARPA, and what is the quantitative data. So she showed you a lot of the quantitative data. So when we do your community engagement section in your annual report, we will use the April meeting, in-person meeting, to tell more of the stories of the impact of ARPA. Then compliance files, we talked about this last month, but Avery's been working on a really great index of your compliance files. So in 2027, when an auditor shows up, you can pull up that index, know exactly what file that is in, and pull that. And then the risk management. So looking at the risk reports, setting the risk profile for each subrecipient, as well as watching the Treasury webinars. Of course, because Treasury likes to come out with new webinars. New webinars came out last week, so we'll be watching all those as well. So that's kind of a look back at the year. As well, we looked at 175 internal projects, your county projects, and evaluated those. That turned into roughly your 39 county projects. We reviewed 147 community projects, which turned into your 22 projects. And so in total, evaluated a little bit over 300 projects for your consideration. So then what is ahead? Now that a majority of the funding is obligated, you have the annual report. So that is your big report, that 100-page report that sits on your website. It has to be a public report. So that is, after we submit it to Treasury, you have to make it public. So there are 3 of those that we have submitted on your behalf and 4 remaining. And then the quarterly expenditure reports, that's more the funding, how much funding is on all of your 80 projects and what are their KPIs on all of their 80 projects. And so there are still 13 of those remaining. So this is that timeline when we have to get into the Treasury portal and submit this on behalf of the county. So you have one coming up in January, you have one coming up in April, and you have one coming up in July. And so we take about the month before to collect and update all the information to make sure it's accurate. You guys have seen this calendar before. Here's all the things with the year ahead, when we will do the low-risk site visits, the medium-risk site visits, and the high-risk site visits. Additionally, the purple is when we'll do the compliance webinars. The green is when kind of the team is heads down doing quarterly reports. And the dark green is the annual report. I put on here all through April, May, June, we really focus on the annual report because that's a very long report that has a lot of requirements in it so that we can submit it on time in July. And then additionally, if there's any funding that comes out that you guys want to re-obligate and we need to relook at the community for those projects, that would happen. Ideally, we would propose February, March, April. So that would give you guys several months to look at community projects and still be able to hit our 2024 deadline and have all new contracts in place, signed, sealed by next December. So that is it. And then Travis, who runs our Oklahoma office, is not here today, but was here this morning. Just wanted to share that our presence in Oklahoma and what Accenture is doing in Oklahoma. And so we made this lovely slide here to talk about our office opening and a couple of our scholarships that we provide to the community. And that's on behalf of Travis, who runs our Oklahoma office here. So with that, that was kind of what we did, how we're tracking all the projects. Hopefully we only have to do that once every December for you all and what is in the year ahead.
Thank you, Jamie. Does anyone have any other questions?
looking ahead.
Yeah.
We had some conversation earlier about, we have some remaining funds.
Mhm.
We may have some funds come available after the first of the year, depending on rollbacks, et cetera. In terms of, and I think you mentioned the ability to get contracts out if we were to choose to go the way we did before and put those dollars into the community. What are some timeframes that we might be aware of in doing so? Should open the portal back up, just go off the list that we previously have received, open the portal up to more defined areas of assistance, also considering those that were previously. What are some general thoughts, or maybe you can be thinking about that and present to us next month?
Absolutely, and we can come with a very detailed timeline next month. My proposal, just given how long it takes the county to get through all the process and get all the contracting signed, get it across multiple boards, is that we have all those decisions in a really good place by next July. So that gives us a month to go back to get all their information, a month to put on BOCC, a month to collect information. So then if we back that up, that means we need to start looking at projects if you want to open it. I have another client that is opening it back up for the public because they have some additional unobligated funds. So we would need some time to do a webinar or some type of session if we are going to open it back up. And so ideally, I would like to do that in late January, early February, and then open the portal back up in February, keep it open about 6 weeks, and then close it in March or April, and then give that time to evaluate it, bring it back to you all, and still hit that July timeline.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anything else? Very good. Thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate your comprehensive report. I think we also really look forward to, is it April when we hear the stories
Yes.
of impact?
Yes, I'm really excited about this. This is called ripple effect mapping. And what you actually do is you connect the stories. So you connect the impact, for example, of the Homeless Service Navigator to the impact of the Urban League, to the impact of Edmund Meals. And how are those stories connected? Because you're supporting a lot of nonprofits that may serve some of the similar people. And that touch point of really what is the net new? What were they creating that wouldn't have been created without your all's investment?
Yes, we look forward to that
Yeah.
report as well.
I'm excited about that too.
Excellent. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to receive the Accenture report?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Danielle, I believe you have agenda item number 7.
Thought you were done with me. So there has been an update on Project 10035, which is the Court Clerk's Jury Pavilion. Originally, this request came in to create a pavilion in between the annex and the courthouse to allow for social distancing of prospective jurors when they come in to go through that process of selection. There has been an update that that's really not going to be feasible just due to the amount of usage that goes on between both of these facilities, and bringing in cranes and equipment like that is just not really going to be a great reality. So there is a suggestion to take the first floor and make modifications in those court spacings to allow for the social distancing. It would open the space up and add some partitions. It would require some displacement of offices, though, specifically your emergency management department. So we are making a recommendation that this go to the infrastructure committee to kind of hash out those individual details, very similarly to what you did on the 5th floor. Present us your options, tell us how it's going to work, and then you guys will make that determination and bring it back to P&G, whether the project is going to move forward, change in scope, be rolled back. That becomes your policy decision. But taking it to infrastructure allows you all to kind of figure out those individual nuances within the project. So just providing that direction.
Very good. Do we have questions?
Mr. Buchanan?
Did you want to speak, Mr. Buchanan?
We certainly don't want to step on Mr. Burns' toes. So I think it's just in its infancy right now, the idea stage, but we can make space. We have there's some area there with the windows. If you all have been in there, there's some office space that we could use that, but we certainly don't want to disrupt Mr. Barnes' space.
Yeah, Mr. Sullivan came by yesterday, and I'm glad he did, because what I had heard, I had not yet seen, was something that would have conflicted with Mr. Barnes' presence here. And as you know, we're very strong advocates of him remaining on campus with a footprint. It was good to have that conversation with Mike and have the discussion that we could work around that issue.
Yeah.
And so if you come to infrastructure kind of with a more fleshed out plan, I'm
Yeah.
happy to
This-
give it good
We're
consideration.
just in the idea stage.
Yep.
so,
Okay,
We'll do that.
I appreciate that. Thanks for coming, Rick.
Anybody else?
That's all I had. Thank you. Anything?
Thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate the recommendation to move to infrastructure. Do I have a motion?
Sure.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And item number 8, Danielle.
Yes, this will be the end. So we are looking for a recommendation from your board as well for us to work with the DA's office to initiate the Title VI compliance framework. So this will be the policy that kind of outlines, and you guys already have this really done well in your contracting, but this would kind of outline how if somebody did have a complaint with how they might have received their services or feel like they were discriminated against during the ARPA process, that they could file this complaint with the county. So this would allow us to create that process with getting the DA's input on what the legalities surrounding it would be, and then appointing a coordinator, likely someone off of the P&G board, to be that main countywide point of contact if there is a complaint. Just because there's a complaint doesn't mean it will be a valid one, but it is something that we have to track per Treasury, just to make sure that as these services are provided to the community, that nobody feels like they were discriminated against. So just looking for approval to work
Very
with the
good. So you
DA.
need a motion to guide you to work with the DA to create an administrative process
Yes,
with
ma'am.
the Title VI issues. I'll move. So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any citizen participation?
Thank you.
Seeing none, board comments?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Very good. Well, I will wish everyone a happy holidays and hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye.